Hello everyone, welcome again to my channel. This is Karthik. Today we discuss about the further concepts of Java. That is, we'll learn about what is this concept, and we'll learn about how properties can be accessed using this, and we'll learn how methods can be accessed, how constructors can be accessed using this. And we also focus about a few more topics like command and arguments, and we'll try to focus on these things with integrated version of programs. Thank you. Straight away, so I just create an example here. So notepad space a file name, say take example which represents something of properties, different kinds of properties, and how to pass into constructors, so on. So take example a rectangle example here. Or you can even take a polygon. It's a good one to understand again. So polygon, it's already been defined. We just try to modify this version, new version of polygon. Just try to take it a new file if possible, better. So instead of this polygon, I say quadrilateral. So quadrilateral.java is better to have a new class without erasing the old class. So class quadrilateral. So today we just try to focus on what is this. So this object. This is an object which reflects to the class, which represents about the class. Means how a class can be referred, how the class properties can be referred, how the class methods can be referred, and how the constructors can be referred. So the main motive of this is to refer or access current class properties and current class methods, current class constructors. Okay. So first we try to focus on what is an property and how many different kinds of properties we have in Java. Okay. So properties in Java are of three types. One is instance property, and the one is static property and a local property. If you keep on thinking we have final property, we'll see in next class. So static property, instance property, local property. So instance property is a property of a class which belongs to class. Like example, I say that int when I say length comma breadth comma height, example, these three are called instance properties, which has a meaning in the word itself. Instance is nothing but a property which can be accessed with the help of an instance, means object. Okay. And what is the local property? Local property is a property which belongs to a function or a method. Say example, let's say public void, I say set dimensions. The set dimensions class has something like int length. You just need to have some difference between this particular length and this particular length having same name and same type, that is int, but the difference is this length belongs to this particular method and this length belongs to this particular class. How can we vary these two things is this has a scope and visibility up to this method. Means after this method, this length will not be accepted, and this length can be accepted in whole class. That's why this length should be accessed using something like this. Like I said, this dot length. This dot length is nothing but length length is being accessed by the current class object, that is called this. This dot length equals to length. Okay, so this one of the good example is accessing the instance property can be done using this. These are called instance properties. Why are called instance properties? Because this properties to be easy can be accessed only by an object. Without object, it can't be accessed. If you want to access a property without an object, that should be a static property. Say example, if you say that static, say double, example static double, say example an area equals to say 67.8 something. This is an area value which is of type double and static type. This is a property which is which belongs to the what? Not belongs directly, which is not an instance property, which can be accessed directly by a particular class. To access this area, we doesn't require to create any object. Like we create an object like this dot length. If you want me to explain clearly, just create a main method, public static void main string args, and for example, if you want to access this area directly, I can say system dot out dot print line. To access that area, I can say quadrilateral dot area. But I run this program, java c space quadrilateral dot java space quadrilateral. If I run that, you'll get 67.8. I have accessed this value directly with the help of class without creating an object. Unlike accessing this length, breadth, and height, we cannot access them directly using this example. If I say that quadrilateral dot length, of course I should get a default value called 0. Right? When I run this, it give me an error. That is, see, a non-static variable length cannot be referenced from a static context. Means this is a non-static property because it doesn't have a static keyword here, and I am trying to access from a static content. This is a static content. The main method is of what content? Static content. From a static content, I am trying to access a non-static property. This is not possible. Hence, it produces me a compile time error. Static is a better kind of property which can be accessed directly by a class without creating any object. Another important concept of static is when I think about memory, the static will create an unique memory block than instance property. Every time the uses of static property by multiple classes. For example, if I say quadrilateral dot length, say if I create object, say example, say that quadrilateral space something dot, say quadrilateral space q equals to new quadrilateral, and if I say q dot length or say q dot area, what happens is every time I create a new object for quadrilateral, that will always take the memory from a single block without creating a new block. Instead, if I say something like q dot area and I want to say q dot length, every time I call q dot length with q dot area, q dot length will create a new block of memory. Of course, if I run the program, I'll get same kind of output, a carrier. I get 0 here because the length value is not defined, but static value is defined. The intention to say the program is that q dot area or q1 dot area or q2 dot area, any number of objects I create to access the static content will take only from the same memory block. Instead, when I access this length by multiple objects, it takes variable memory blocks. That is the main purpose of static, which saves the memory. That is all about properties like instance property, static property, and local property. just right away remove this and I just go with my concept called this. So what is this? We'll discuss now. This is a kind of concept which is used to access properties, methods and constructors. So this is a method. In this method, to create a difference between the local property and the instance property, if I remove this here, this doesn't have any meaning. Even though if I run the program, it doesn't show any error, but there is no difference between length equals to length, because which length is equals to which length. Hence this length cannot store this length, because I cannot get the property of this and store here. So obviously I have to store this length into this length. Compiler feels in confusion that which length, this length belongs to which property, is a local property or an instance. Hence, to show differentiation between these two, I use something like this keyword, this dot length. Of course, we can even change it as len, and then it doesn't require any kind of this here. But if you want to represent this with the same kind of property name, then use what, this dot length equals to this dot length is the length called instance property, and this length is something called as local property. Hence, one of the justification of this is used to access properties. This is called property, and this can even use to access a method. Example, once I got length here, I just want to create another method called public void area, and inside this area I just try to create and pass a property called length, and I just simply print here system dot out dot print line. I want to find length into length, because length into length is square. Of course, square is also quadrilateral. So a public void area, I took a length. Now I just want to communicate these two methods. To communicate these two methods, once the dimensions are set, I just want to call area directly. Like I can say here, from here itself, I can say this dot area of pass length here. I can pass length, or I can pass this dot length. So I can directly call this dot area of this dot length, or I can directly call this dot area of length. What happens is this method is calling this method using this object. So in what manner I can execute this is just create an object here, quadrilateral space q equals to new quadrilateral, and this is something we already learned, something called constructor, which doesn't have any constructor. Hence default constructor comes into play, right? Hence with q, I say q dot set dimensions of, I say 50, I call 50 here. Whenever I call q dot set dimensions, automatically it calls the dimensions method, and it will inbuilt call which method, area method. When I run this program, observe here, finally I get quadrilateral is compiled, and run this, we got 2500, that is area. Means when I call set dimensions method by passing the value, automatically it is calling from this method to this method. This is an object used to call the current class method. This is called current class method. Means from one method, if you want to call another method of the same class, then use this. This is an example of this for property. This is an example of this for what, method. Area is what, method of this quadrilateral class. So to call this area, what I am using here, this dot area of means I can say this is nothing but quadrilateral. This dot length, I can simply say length, it's no worries. So another example of this is used to call the methods. And another very important step is a constructor. For example, I create a constructor here saying that public quadrilateral. The constructor, a simple constructor I am calling here, a constructor having no parameter. Now this is not a default constructor, mind you. Default constructor is only constructor when it doesn't have any kind of explicit constructor. If this is a constructor not available, then this will call the default constructor. Since I am representing a constructor here, now this will not be a default constructor. I can say this as a parameter less constructor. Same manner, I just create another constructor here as quadrilateral having say length like this. So I just want to call this quadrilateral and I want to pass the length value into this constructor. So when I call this quadrilateral, I just try to keep comment here. Now from this constructor, I just call as this of say 40. The meaning of that is this of 40 is called this of. This is not this dot. This dot is used for calling property and method. If you want to call a constructor for another constructor, then you had to use this of. This is called constructor because see quadrilateral of. Instead of quadrilateral, I place what this. So this of 40 means quadrilateral of 40. Quadrilateral of 40 is what? The length. This will be called this length. Now obviously this 40 is passed as a parameter length. Now when this constructor occurs, I just said to say as again this dot set dimensions of just pass length. Done. Hence I doesn't want this now. I remove this. You then keep it, no problem. Now see, I just create an object, that's it. Everything will be done by this. See, this is a constructor that is passing the value of 40 and this is a constructor taking the value of 40 and this 40 is passed using this. This is called this axing constructor, this axing method, this axing property, this axing method again. Okay, so run this and we get 1600. 1600 is the area of the square. And this is the best example of simple and best example of this. This can be used to access the current class property, the current class method, current class constructor. This is one constructor, this is another constructor. From this constructor I am accessing parameter constructor. This is called parameter constructor. This dot can be used to access methods and properties. This of is used to what? Access constructors. Then this is an example of an properties and methods. And what? This example of this. So if you keep on moving, like we learned properties, we also have methods. Methods can also be classified into different types. Like if we take same example to understand, or another example, say something like a dummy kind of method, say notepad space, a class called a dummy class, dummy.java class a dummy, and I just want to say that methods, how methods are classified again. Methods are also classified into instance methods, static methods, and final methods. In this video, we just try to work on the instance and static methods. Later we focus on final when we learn the concept of inheritance. So instance methods, say example, take a method here, say public void get dummy value, and meanwhile take a property here, say int x equals to 5. So okay, and public void set dummy value in x. I can say to set, I can say this dot x equals to x. To get, I just return this as integer value. So int, so return here x. A simple, these two methods are called as instance methods. Why do we call it as instance methods? Because these methods can only be accessed by the object of dummy. For example, if you want to access these two methods, I have to create a main method first, public static void main string args, and from this create a class called dummy space object d equals to new dummy. We also again saying that dummy, this is called a constructor. Which constructor? A default constructor. So d dot set dummy value of say 10, and it automatically calls the 10 as x, and this dot x equal to what? X. And we all know this is something called one of the best example of this, accessing the current class property, instance property. And see, to access the set dummy value, I need an object called d. Without having object, I cannot access this method. The same manner, I cannot access the other method, say system dot out dot print line, say d dot get dummy value. I cannot access this method without object. Hence d dot get dummy value, it will print some value of x and returns. Example, just try to compile this. So java c space dummy dot java and java space dummy, I got 10 printed. This is a normal regular example, and I have just said to say that these are methods called as instance methods which cannot be accessed without creating an object. Hence what are called static methods, same like static property. Static methods also creates a single block of memory for occupying a method, and the methods can be accessed without creating any object. For example, if I have something like here, say static property, static, I want to get a constant, say int some pi equals to say 3.14, and make it as a double if possible, and I want to create a method here, static void get pi. Just print that value pi here and just say pi. This is a simple method which contains what? Static type. To access this method, we doesn't require any object. So to access get pi, we doesn't require any kind of object called d. I can call it as like this. How I call? Dummy dot get pi. Dummy dot get pi. Why I am saying like this? Because since it is static has single memory block which can be occupied by any number of objects. Hence, I can access this directly by using class name without creating object. It means don't waste memory for creating object. Again, say java space dummy. Done. Since I am writing the program in a single class, even if I don't even write dummy dot get pi, even it works. If I say get pi directly, it will run because see, I get same output. I didn't even say d dot or dummy dot because this is a static content, say static main method, and this is a static method. Both are static in a same class, hence this doesn't even require something like dummy. I can access this even by d dot. I can access this even by dummy dot. I can access this as without dummy dot or d dot. Only because these two methods are in the same class. This things will change if you remove the main method. If you remove the main method, this statistics will change. Example, if I remove this main method, if I create another new class, say that notepad space static demo dot java. From this class, we try to run that dummy class. Then what happens? See, public static void main. This class doesn't know who is dummy or who is getPy. This getPy method is not known to outside of the class. Hence, we should need to call this getPy method only with the help of what? Class name. Like how? Directly saying that dummy dot getPy. When you run the program, it will work fine. So java space static demo dot java, java space static demo. Done. I cannot directly say getPy. When I say getPy, this class doesn't know who is getPy. So surely it will throws me a compile time error. Example, if I remove this dummy dot, see, it throws me compile time error because who is getPy? This is separate class and this is separate class. But if it's the same class, if I run the program, then this can be possible. Example, if I write the same thing here, when I say getPy can be easily recognizable because dummy is a class which contains static method as well as static main method. Hence, getPy can be accessed directly, or I can even say dummy dot getPy. Both are same. So this is something like a static method. Static method is used in a situation where you feel that even though you create multiple number of classes, all the classes uses same kind of method. That can be given best example as static. Static is used or created situation where all the classes uses same kind of properties and methods. Okay, hope you understood the class, and we try to go for next class. When we focus on that, we work on command and arguments, garbage collector, and other stuff which are very important. Thank you for patience listening. Keep enjoying.